Does it feel good, Rob? Does it feel good?
Besides the ankle surgery I had to have, everything else is starting to feel better.
Good. When I finally retired, Rob, I didn't do anything. Like my body just knew it was time. Like I shed 50 pounds and it never came back.
I love that.
Yeah. It felt like I didn't have to force eat I didn't have to do any of that stuff anymore. It was good.
Wow.
Well, let's jump in and introduce the man of the hour, because I feel like I'm surrounded by high football offensive line IQ, and we need to let the fans know who's on the show today. So welcome to Believe in Rams, presented by FanDuel. Of course, Erin Coscarelli back with you, joined by my co-host, Super Bowl champion, 11-year Rams vet, Rob Havenstein, the offensive tackle. And joining us, Rob, I don't even know what to say. We've been wanting to do a show all about the offensive line for so long. You might have heard of his Baldy breakdowns, Brian Baldinger. He's on NFL Network. He's all over the place. He's doing Baldy breakdowns on social media. It's something that people are really crazy about. And I think it's time to give the offensive line its flowers, its credit. Brian Baldinger, how are you? Thanks for hanging out with us.
I'm good, Aaron. I'm good. I got the message that Rob was going to, I don't know if this is his maiden voyage or if he comes on all the time. I didn't know, but I actually have never met Rob. I've met a lot of the linemen in the league. I've actually never met Rob. Probably talked about him a bunch. So it's nice to, meet him in this fashion right now and congratulate him on a really great run.
Well, thanks, Baldy. I appreciate it. And yeah, it's nice to meet you too, finally. I've watched a lot of your breakdowns, and, you do such a good job of highlighting the offensive line and all the good stuff that happens in there that kind of gets lost in the highlights, but we appreciate what you do for us.
Thanks, Rob. Thank you.
Yeah, there's always a mystery around the offensive line. I feel like people just don't know how much credit they deserve, because if they're not messing up, they're just quietly doing their job. And we saw what the offense in Los Angeles did. They kept Matthew Stafford largely upright and the running lanes fairly clean, but I'm going to literally sit back and learn alongside the rest of you guys at home, because I don't even feel like I have the knowledge to really understand the intricacies of the offensive line. Baldy, and for you guys at home, you might want to also, if you're listening, you might want to watch this on YouTube, because you have a special video to show us. Is that right?
Well, since Rob was coming on, I figured, I could do a video of Rob, and go back to, probably, I don't know how you feel, Rob, but I feel like every NFL player, the dream is to play in the Super Bowl. And there you are in your home stadium, down by 4 points, and you got one drive left in you where you got to be perfect, right? To go down the field, 79 yards like you did, Cooper Kupp with a 1-yard touchdown pass. But I thought, like, that's if I wanted to have, a signature drive that people wanted to talk to me about, that would be it, Rob.
Oh, 100%. No, that's the kind of stuff you dream about when you're a kid, You're out there, throwing the football around, and you're creating little scenarios. Say, all right, need a touchdown. They're down a couple points, and I got to do my job. And I think most kids are out there playing quarterback or wide receiver. But, for those special ones who get to play offensive line, it's talking about going and doing your job. And that's exactly what that drive showed.
Well, the thing is, Rob, it's your home stadium, but it's a Super Bowl, so you don't really get a lot of crowd noise. But I was in the stadium that day. I was doing the game for Sky TV in London, and so I know that it was loud. It probably sounded like a road game right there. So the first thing you got to be able to do is, you got to be able to hear Stafford. You at least got to be able to see the ball move, just so that you can give yourself a chance against a guy like Sam Hubbard out there.
Oh yeah, no. If you go back and look at the NFC Championship game versus the Niners, that wasn't much of a home game either. We were on silent there too. But yeah, we've kind of mentioned in the past, getting off on the ball was probably the utmost importance for me, especially playing it out there on the edge. So if I wasn't the first one leaving, I was already behind. So that was ingrained number one thing I had to do.
Well, I've always said, Rob, that you can't win the 100-meter dash if you don't get a great start.
That's right.
And that's the entire game of the offensive tackle. The techniques are the techniques and your size and your strength kick in. But if you don't get a good start, like you play behind against these guys in this league, it's hard to catch up and not look bad, not hold, not. I mean, you've been very good, Rob. I mean, you've been a model of consistency. You have not had a lot of penalties in your career. And the thing is, Aaron, about the Rams, they don't spend first-round picks on offensive linemen. There was 7 offensive tackles taken in this draft. The Rams don't do that. Almost every other team does. Rob was a second-round pick. You go through the list. Avila was a second-round pick. Go through the guys. They've had free agents in their starting. They're looking for smart guys that can understand their weaknesses. Rob's not going to win any 40-yard dash ever, but he knows how to play the game. That's not a knock. Rob knows. He learned how to actually. I call it, Rob. I call it just maximizing your efficiency in your movement. You don't take any extra movements in your steps. It's almost so, and it's not robotic, but it's so programmed where you need to be to win your down.
Yep. Yeah, because I mean, the number one thing is if I'm not in that position where and when I need to be, I mean, I'm going to have no shot about trying to block some of these guys. I mean, even when your technique's perfect, it's hard enough already. I mean, you know how exactly how it is. I mean, these guys are monsters out there on the edge. And I feel like every year they're just evolving a little bit more and more. And so you have to be that much more kind of buttoned up on your technique and assignment.
Well, the thing is, in this business right now, these guys are getting paid because of their ability to get to the quarterback at every position. I mean, we just saw all these guys, David Bailey, we just saw all these guys get drafted. I mean, they're getting drafted to get to the quarterback. Nobody's saying, well, they really set a good edge, or they really – no, they're there to get to the quarterback. And, it seems to me that, it's a cat and mouse game. You got to get off to a better start. You got to be able to anchor better. I'm good friends with Aaron Kromer, Rob, and he was there for a while. And, I remember one day Aaron was telling me everybody drops their anchor different. Some guys can do it standing straight up. Some guys got to be in a deep knee bend and, their legs got to be split apart. Everybody does it different. So you just have to understand your body, your strengths, what you do well, and within the framework of what your offense is.
100%. Yeah, that was one of my favorite things about Big Chrome is that he taught offensive line in a way where it was suitable to your body. Because like you said, everyone's body is different. Like me and Whitworth, you stick us two next to each other. It's like, what has the guy on the right been eating? Because the guy on the left looks like an alien. Right. And then you go inside into back when we had a Super Bowl run in 18, you had a Roger Saffold. Just unbelievable bend, unbelievable feet. And then our center was John Sullivan. He was a 11, 12-year vet at the time. A couple injuries, didn't quite move as fluently, but everyone has to find a way to get it done. And it's only know how you get it done best. And that was the best thing about Chrome is that's how he taught it. He was like, listen, I'm going to coach Roger this way. No other young guys in the room, listen to me. This is specifically for Roger. Only Roger can do this.
Yeah.
Everyone else, don't listen. You can't bend like this. You don't have footwear like this. You can't do it because only Roger can do it. And so it's one of my favorite things about Big Chrome.
I remember talking to Whit, though, Rob. It was interesting. He was down at Offensive Line Masterminds a couple of years ago. And he's just this bastion of knowledge, But he told me something I've never forgotten, Rob. I'm sure you did the same thing. He said, I never lost a rep in a walkthrough. He took his walkthrough serious. And I see guys out in walkthroughs now, Rob, on a Friday or Saturday, and, the shoes aren't tied, and, it's just, they're just going through the motions. And Whit was like, that's when you really got to lock in. Assignments, all the different looks you could get, your steps. You got to visualize it. When you do that, there is a carryover, especially with the way everybody has to practice nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. Whit always called it perfect rep Fridays, kind of when the tempo comes down, and Saturdays were a little more relaxed where you're wearing just regular tennis shoes. You might not even get out into the big field. You're under the tent just making sure the mental is right. But on Friday, you are going, and he always called it perfect rep Friday. So he's out there before anyone working on his, warming everything up, making sure that when he takes sets today, it's crisp. He is in perfect technique. And that's something that, I tried to take into my game, having a wealth of knowledge like a Whitworth, I'd be the dumbest guy alive if I didn't try to take some of the stuff that made him successful. So I took what worked for him and what would work for me, and then just put that in my tool bag and took the same mindset that he had through 16 years in the league.
There's a lot of, Rob, you were on the Petros and Money show, I want to say last week, and you were asked about moving from side to side, right to left. And I think we at home, us fans, think, which the Rams actually 2 years ago had a lot of different variations of offensive line. I know there were some injuries there, certainly in the beginning of the season, 2 seasons ago. Why do we at home think it's just so easy to shift you from left to right? And really, what is the reality of how difficult that actually is? Yeah,
number one, it's incredibly difficult. Baldy, I'd love to get your response on this, but especially watching the draft, talking about, hey, he's played right tackle for 6 years in college or 7 years in college, however long these guys play, and then all of a sudden he's like, hey, we're going to switch him over to left guard, and it's like, or switch him over to left tackle, and it's like, to me, it's like doing everything backwards. If you had to wake up, if you're right-handed, and you had to wake up and do everything with your left hand, you had to eat cereal with your left hand, you had to start writing with your left hand. Like, to me, it's just so backwards, because you're in a certain spot in certain positions where what we were talking about earlier, like knowing your body inside and out and your angles and everything, all that changes. There's not much carryover, because the one leg you pushed off of in your past set, it's no longer the push leg. Now you got to flip that. Now it's, are my legs a little more square? Are they a little more here? Do I get open more because now I'm pushing off, this inside leg more, without getting too much in the details? But I mean, it's just incredibly difficult. It's something you have to work on with so many reps, so many of those walkthrough reps that you talk about. Like, that's why you want them perfect, is because the more perfect reps you have, the more you're just building yourself up that when the bullets start flying and it's live action, that fundamentally you're going to lock into what you've done. And if you've done perfect reps, then hopefully you should get perfect reps in the game.
It's interesting, Rob. I remember Tristan Wirfs. Wirfs was the first team All-Pro right tackle coming out of Iowa. The guy is an amazing talent. But, he got switched from right tackle, where he was All-Pro, to left tackle. So I saw him in training camp that year, and he was in a funk, just a funk. Sure. He's like, Baldy, man, I'm a right hand. I got a howitzer right hand at right tackle. Yep. Like, I shoot that thing, and when I hit that thing, I know I'm in a chair. I'm sitting down. Like, I got control. Yep. I went over the left tackle. He was getting chopsticks with his left hand. Like, exactly what you were describing. Well, I try to do everything with my left hand as much as I could and try to retrain my brain. Mm-hmm. And he said it took him at least a half a season. Oh, yeah. And it wasn't pretty every Sunday. It took him a half a season. Now, this is an elite talent, first rounder, the whole thing. But it took him a half a season before he even began to feel comfortable at that left tackle position. So the idea that these guys can just play one position, kick inside the offensive guard, they just like, it's just going to be automatic. Like, if you're 6'8" and you're kicking into guard, like, okay.
It's not so easy.
No, it's not easy. And the last thing you want is to exude lack of confidence in your position, at any position. The last thing you want to do is feel like you're not confident. All you want is to feel like you can move mountains, that no matter what lines up in front of you, you can do your job. And when you have doubt, and when you switch positions like Rob's describing, when you have doubt, you might be the only one that knows it. Or you might, your roommate might know it. But the last thing you want is for fans, because fans don't know, and it's not on the fans. But, that's just a terrible feeling when you don't feel confident.
Oh, 100%. The mental part of it, the doubt is, everything in between the ears. It's such an elite level changer when you get to the NFL, because the guys who can handle that, let alone just in the position that they've been playing for all these years. But like every year there's doubt, there's this, there's that. Like telling you maybe you shouldn't or you should change something up. And for a guy like Tristan Wirfs, I mean, he was all pro at right tackle and then eventually made him way to all pro left tackle. I mean, he is one of the unicorns of the NFL. There's a handful of guys out there that could even talk about doing that. And I remember watching those first couple clips when we were in the room, just going over the teams were playing, and you see Tristan out there on the left and maybe not doing exactly what he was doing on the right side. And I'm just looking at it like, man, why switch him?
Yeah, exactly.
And then eventually, Tristan's so good where it's like, all right, he's going to feel comfortable with it and then start locking stuff down like, he has done every single year. But it was just it's such a weird thing to see because he's like, man, you have just such a stud out there. Why change it? Yeah.
I would love to have you guys on again because it's crazy how it's already been almost 20 minutes, but just to kind of educate the audience at home, the uniqueness or the nuance or the intricacy of each position, because we just you just got asked by, super smart sportscasters, the uniqueness of switching from left to right and how challenging that is. But I think most people at home just think you can plug and play and we're here to not when you have a Matthew Stafford, you're trying to protect. Baldy, you said something kind of interesting that I was curious to get your take on now that you see the entire league from your lens. Like the Rams don't really invest a lot of first round picks when it comes to the offensive line. Then why have they seemed to succeed so well in terms of just an efficient offense?
Well, I mean, Rob would know better, but I mean, it goes to this. It's one thing to develop Rob Havenstein, Colton Shelton, Steve Avila, whoever, Alaric Jackson. But it's another thing to play together. They play very well together. For a long time, they were an 11 personnel team, even in the Super Bowl run. But they played like a 12 personnel team because the wide receivers next to Rob on the backside, they were sealing the backside with wide receivers. And so they were getting people to line up and match up with 11 personnel, 3 receivers, a tight end in the back. But they were playing like a 2 tight end team because guys like Cooper Kupp and Nakua, they could block. They enjoyed it. They were good at it. But you had to be able to work with the tackle in order to do that. Mm-hmm. So it's not often you see wide receivers working with an offensive tackle, or with another tight end. But that's how they were groomed and coached, obviously, because that's how it looks on film. But ultimately, you can get all the great players you want. You can get an all-star team. But if they're just not glue and everybody's not thinking with one brain, it'll fall apart. And so it won't be good. So one of the things the Rams have done, and they've gone through offensive line coaches too. Mm-hmm. So, the one thing that they've been able to do is play well together. So the communication is very, very good. And obviously, the head coach is as good as anybody at communicating. But the group communicates very, very well together. So you don't see a lot of missed assignments. Slide protection. You see what slide protections, jet protection, it should look like with them. You don't see somebody just leaving their man and just letting somebody come free on somebody that gets caught off guard. You don't see that. So they obviously play very well together.
Yeah, I mean, Baldy hit it on the head. I think one of the greatest compliments we ever got, it was, I want to say it was still that 2018 season. We were playing, I think we were playing the Niners or something. And he was, well, I won't name him, but one of the defensive tackles basically said, I'm not sure which one of you guys is good, but you all play well together.
That's
great.
Like,
for him to actually say that, like to us after the game was, it was one of the best compliments that we've ever gotten. I mean, we take pride in communicating with each other, knowing how guys, like we talked about the individuality of an offensive lineman. I have to know how Steve Avila moves. I have to know how Coleman Shelton moves. I definitely have to know how Kevin Dotson moves because I'm playing right next to him. But it's like, especially being a leader, in the room last year and over these last couple of years, is that I need to be able to see stuff on the film and then correct it specific to that player.
Yeah.
And I think and number one, that just comes from guys caring. And that's something that, the Rams have done very well.
Yep.
And you did for so long too. You had, such a long career with one team, no less. This is going to sound like you say no dumb questions, but I feel like Rob is like, but obviously is it easier protecting a guy like Stafford than it would be a guy like a Lamar Jackson or a more mobile type quarterback?
Well, it's a good question. I've always wondered that myself, just because I've never had a mobile quarterback. But from what I've heard from other guys who do it a lot, it's like guys who really scramble and hold the ball and that can extend plays and do amazing things. It is tough on an offensive line because you don't really know where he is or where he's going to end up. You have an idea, like you can start sensing the guy's reaction in front of you about maybe where the quarterback is. But before every play happens, and especially some of the deeper drops with some of the routes, like if I hear a certain route, I knew the quarterback's going to be a little deeper and he likes to stay a little deeper. He doesn't like to climb right away. He wants to climb later. Okay, so that affects how I set. And so it's knowing where a Matthew Stafford is going to be, because like you said, number one job is to protect him in pass protection. And so in order to do that, I need to know where he is going to be and where he likes to go after the play. Now, granted, things happen. Sometimes you got to improvise, but I'm trying to get, like I said, as many perfect reps, and that starts with who's lining up next to me, and then especially, a Pro Bowl caliber player like Matthew Stafford, where he is behind me. And I haven't looked at him during a game, and if I am looking at him during a game, I've done something wrong. So it's very important.
Go ahead, Baldy. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Rob. I played with mobile quarterbacks. Randall Cunningham was Lamar Jackson before Lamar Jackson. And you loved playing with Randall because he was an ultimate competitor. And he would do anything it took in order to win. But it was nerve-wracking some days because you got the clock in your head. And when your hands are outside somebody's body or whatever it is, and he's taken off that way, that's when they throw the flag. So there was times when you just had to let it go. I'm good friends with Lane Johnson, and Jalen Hurts is a great player, but sometimes he holds the ball and then he takes off. And I see Lane. Lane just lets it go. Like the quarterback, he's not going to get flagged because the quarterback still has the ball in his hand. So he's got a clock in his head, and sometimes it's better to release the guy too soon than too late and he gets flagged. So it does lead to that sometimes, and it is a little nerve-wracking when the ball doesn't come out and it's not necessarily like it should. Like these guys see the game the way they see the game. They're great players for a reason. So, but I always felt like the guys that just got rid of the ball on time for the most part, I kind of like to know where they were at.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, such great insight. I know we need to wrap, but before we let you go, Baldy, I think one of the things that we and I'm sure I would love to get your take on, the thing that's unique about the Rams is the Rams would love to have Stafford for as long as he wants to stay, 2-3 years. That would be amazing. We just don't know how his body might feel after next season. How do you, and this is also for you too, Rob, but how do you, when you have a new guy that hopefully will seamlessly, the Rams fans hope, a Ty Simpson take over for when Stafford does decide to leave, sort of now you have to integrate the offensive line to his tendencies. When do you start that process? Because obviously Ty Simpson isn't getting first team snaps with first team offensive linemen. Do you think about that? Is that something that is a unique kind of situation or challenge that the Rams will have to navigate this year?
I'll let Rob go first on that.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question because me personally, and I think because Ty Simpson is going to be in there learning so much from a Matthew Stafford, I think he's going to pick up a lot of his tendencies anyways. I mean, if there's one guy you want to emulate, it's a Matthew Stafford. So it's like, I don't think it needs to change much because he should be learning the intricacies of what Matthew does in the offense. Footwork may be a little different. I'm sure he's got, he's a younger cat, so he's got a little probably more mobility than Matthew wants to give himself credit for. But He's learning from the guy that that eventually will be trying to take over for. So why not do the same things that has made Matthew successful? Kind of in the same boat as I was saying, like, I had Whitworth for all those years. I'd be like I said, I'd be the dumbest guy in the world not to do some of the stuff he did. And, some of the stuff I couldn't do because of arm length, and wits made that out of a factory, but anything that I could take, I did. So I don't see it any different with a Ty Simpson.
So I'm glad you went first, Rob, because the parallel that I drew when the draft choice was made was when Jordan Love got taken and Aaron Rodgers was there.
Sure.
Now, Aaron Rodgers was younger at the time, whatever, but they were looking to the future. And it was funny, like, to Jordan Love's credit, there was a time early on when if you just took the name and the number off the back of the jersey, you couldn't tell the difference.
Sure.
Like the drop, how they took a snap from center, where the footwork was. He copied him, to his credit. And, we'll see what kind of career, but that's what Ty Simpson should be doing. He should literally put his locker right next to Matthew Stafford. He should just follow him around, and how Matthew integrates with the line, how he comes out to practice. I mean, he should just follow everything that Matthew Stafford has done. He's got a Hall of Fame career, and I think he's a smart kid. I don't really know Ty Simpson. He hasn't played a lot of football, but I would try to immerse myself in that world as instantly and for as long as I could.
Oh, 100%. I mean, if I'm him, I'm wearing a Matthew Stafford jersey to bed. I'm doing everything. Everything that guy does, I'm doing. And then if it works, if it works for him, great. And if there's something he needs to change and put his own little flavor on, great. But you're going to do that from learning from a future Hall of Famer.
I said when he got drafted, Rob, I said he just went to quarterback heaven.
Yeah.
You couldn't go to a better place than to learn from a guy like that in that system with that head coach and the way you do things. Like to go to a bad organization that's just trying to turn it around. We've seen it.
Yep.
A lot of these guys don't succeed. The idea that they do it by themselves or they're magic. I mean, it's a complete immersion of a team for a quarterback to be successful.
Absolutely.
And that's why I feel so, Baldy, thank you so much. I mean, I feel so grateful that I get to have Rob Havenstein to learn from, because I think the Rams just are a step ahead when it comes to innovation. Obviously, we'll have to have you on to talk about 12, 13, maybe 14 personnel, because the Rams are just
collect tight ends now.
That's right.
They find a way to use them. The whole league is doing it now. They set a trend. It's here to stay.
They set a trend is exactly the words that you used. And it is, right? 22 tight ends taken in this year's draft, the most since I want to say like 29 or however. It was a while ago.
Yeah.
But the Rams really utilized it in an
It's funny. All those tight ends are different. Every guy is – Terrence Ferguson is different than Colby Parkinson. They're all different.
How so?
Body types, the way that they run. The things that they ask him to do, Allen does things differently than Colby. It's just they all have different skills. Like I would say there's one guy, Ferguson, we're just beginning to see. I think he's going to take off. But, they all are asked to do different things.
So who do you think on that roster now, Baldy, is the wide receiver 3?
Well, I think it's going to depend on, the formation and, the down distance. Like they've got a lot of versatility in how they line up right now. So I just think it really depends. And it could be week to week with who the opponent is and what they want to try to get an advantage of, in all phases of the game, whether it's the run game or, red zone or, what they want to do against the blitz with, 2 or 3 tight ends. Some of these teams, you go 13 personnel and you got 3 tight ends. It's just you're just taking the defensive line. You're just making them defend more gaps, And so there's a variety of different reasons why you would use different tight ends and as many tight ends as they use.
Amazing. Yeah. And I think that was some of the pushback fans were very vocal about was why didn't they, draft a true wide receiver 3 instead of the Max Clare tight end out of Ohio State. But listen, again, I'm not going to pretend I know more than Les Snead and Sean McVay. Just not going to do it. Yeah. No one's doing that here. Except for maybe Rob. But both of you guys, I so appreciate Baldy joining us. Thank you for the breakdown. I think a lot of people are very curious to see just why the Rams continue to just be so successful when it comes to the run game, when it comes to the quarterback position, and when it comes to the offensive line. I so appreciate both you guys. Rob, thank you. We're going to do this again next week. Okay.
Let's do it. Thank you, Baldy.
Thanks. Nice. Yeah.
Thank you, Baldy. All right. That's a wrap. Believe in Rams, presented by FanDuel with Brian Baldinger and Rob Havenstein. Thanks, guys.